Okay, then in order to connect linkage up to this to make it walk and make arms move, I'm going to use these servo horns, and these are cross servo horns. They're inexpensive, they're readily available anywhere, and with the 4 lobes we can use these lobes to activate switches, for example flashing the eyes or flashing the chest or honking the horn, and so that's why I'm using these. But before we put these on the shaft, we're going to drill a new hole in them as close to the center hub as we possibly can. It's just going to be, I'm using a tap and a drill set. They come together. You get the drill and the tap. I bought mine at Home Depot, but you can get them almost anywhere. They're a couple of bucks, $2-3. You get both those. And we'll drill the hole, like I said, as close to the hub as possible, and then tap it for 440 screw. Okay, you do not need a drill press to do this, but I've got one sitting here, so why the hell not use it, right? Hand drill works fine. I mean, it's just soft plastic. I'm just bringing the drill down as close to that center hub as I can. I know there's a hole real nearby, and it won't be a problem. It doesn't matter which one of the legs you do it to on the servo horn. Just drill the hole in one of the legs on both of the pieces. The other hole's right over here. You can see it kind of runs into the other existing hole that was there, but that won't be a problem. Everything's going to fit nice and snug. And then the tap is going to work best if you have a hand drill with a slow speed, or if you have an old screw gun. Here's a 25-year-old screw gun. It still works. And I use it just for tapping because it turns so slow. So I tap the threads in, back the tap out. Do that to both pieces. Okay, now we'll go back over to our gearbox assembly. Okay, so you've got an end with a flange on it, and an end that's kind of an innie. You got an innie and an outie. How's that? Anyway, we want the flanged end to go in towards the nut. You can just force it on there, but it's such a tight fit, why not go ahead and take advantage of that and simply let it self-thread itself back towards the nut, like so. It's not going to pull in all the way. It'll get to where it just starts spinning. That's fine, that's when you can stop. Let's get them both onto that point. There. Okay, so now at this point we're going to take another nut, and yes, it would be nice if we could put a washer on here first and then the nut, but we can't. If it gets out any further, then the linkage is going to start hitting on the side of the robot. There's just no room left. If they'd threaded these shafts in another 1/4 inch, it would have made life a hell of a lot easier for everything to do with building this robot, for me anyway. So anyway, we'll put the nut on there. And it's going to tend to want to pull into that innie that I talked about a little bit. But the main thing is, if you get on it with needle nose, you won't have any trouble tightening it up, and it'll pull this nut in so that it gets a good bite on that servo horn. You just keep getting on it and forcing the tips of your needle nose onto that nut, and you'll see that you can get it in there. If you don't have needle nose, you'll never be able to do it though. I mean, you'd never be able to get hold of that little nut and push the ends of them in there. Okay, that's pretty dang tight. You see how it pulled into the nut here, pulled into the nut there? Now that's really part of that shaft. We don't have to worry about that slipping or anything. So we grab another nut that came with the gearbox set. And we'll do the same thing on this side, except right now we have to make sure we get the timing right between these two crosses or cranks, whatever we'd like to call them. they need to be opposites. Here's the hole that I drilled on this one, and here's the hole that I drilled on that one. They're already almost opposite. So when this hole's up, this hole's down, for example. See what I mean by opposite? The best way to get it exactly right, I'm going to move some of this out of the way and see if I'm look through the viewfinder here. Okay, that's in the picture. Is if you lay the whole contraption on a tabletop like this, that's going to force those to stay in alignment while you tighten that one nut up. Now, I need to be closer to the edge in order to get my needle nose on there, but if you do that, then you'll know that you have perfect alignment when you tighten everything up. I think that's it. I don't think I can get any more on it. Alright. So, we now have our cranks on there. They're solid to the shaft. They won't slip or they won't move. They're opposites each other. We're golden. What we can do again is you break out the big snips. We got to get rid of this extra shaft that we can't use. It's too long for the body. So you just get right on there, and again, it's fairly soft steel. It snips pretty easy. Like that. Cool? We're just about ready to set this aside, just like we had the painted parts earlier. But before we do set it aside, there's two things that we can glue on there. One is going to be the 3.8 volt bulb. It's going to sit right here. We're going to want the end of the brass sitting on the plastic and then the glass on the metal. That way we know none of the brass will touch the metal. That metal frame will basically be negative later, and we don't want that making a circuit to the light, or the light will stay on all the time. And the other thing that we need to put a little bit of glue on will be the sprocket, so that it'll drive the chain. So let's do the sprocket first. And again, the easiest way to do that is just to take a little flat blade screwdriver, take the goop glue, just come at it, kind of touch the shaft on all sides and spin the cog in it, then come back to this side of it, get the crap all around, spin it back into it, and then back again. We want it left out towards the end, like that. And that's good. We'll just leave that. Then for the bulb, might as well take some of this off my screwdriver, right? Put a little bit on the glass, a little bit on the brass, like that. And set it on there, like I said, with the brass sitting on the plastic. See? It's sitting about there. You don't want the end of the bulb sticking out further than the end of the motor. Just like that. And just set that whole thing aside. Let it dry. Left over from the kit, we still have these two bolts and these two nuts, and also that one little teeny extra hex thing, which you'll probably want to save just in case you ever need one or lose one. But these are going to be used to hold the motor into the robot later, so you don't want to lose them. If you think there's going to be a long period of time between when you set the motor assembly up and build the robot, you might want to go as far as just screwing them right to the housing so they all stay together for now. Then later when you go looking for them, you'll know roughly where they are, right? Can't get too far away then. See how nice that goop is? There's no time delay here, folks. Just like that. So now we can't lose our two mounting screws, and we got this whole thing we can set aside to let dry. Don't lose your Allen hex key. You're going to need that later to align the shaft.